Hi, good morning from beautiful Alley Pond Park in Queens. I'm Sarah Charlotte Powers, Executive Director and co-founder of the Natural Areas Conservancy. We're out here today to celebrate the release of the New York City Strategic Trails Plan, which is an effort co-led by the Natural Areas Conservancy and New York City Parks that lays out a vision for the future of trails across the 10,000 acres of forests and wetlands that exist within our city. People are often surprised to learn that a third of our city's park system is beautiful natural areas like the one I'm standing in right now, and that there's more than 300 miles of nature trails that exist within these beautiful spaces. Our team is hard at work improving access to natural areas, and the Strategic Trails Plan lays out a vision for the investment and care needed in order to bring this incredible resource into the future and to ensure access to nature for all New Yorkers.
Hello from Alley Pond Park in Queens. My name is Julia Raskin. I'm the Trails Program Manager with the Natural Areas Conservancy. I'm very excited for the release of the Strategic Trails Plan, which is a blueprint for the management of nature trails citywide in all 5 boroughs. This plan lays out recommendations and goals for how the Natural Areas Conservancy and New York City Parks can work together to ensure a standard maintenance, a standardized way of maintaining all of the nature trails in the city. And we're doing that through volunteer engagement and also through ensuring that all of the trails have clear markings and that people know where they're supposed to be, and that the trailheads are clear and people feel welcome in all of the parks. We're working together to formalize the nature trails citywide, which means that park by park, we're going through and ensuring that all of the trails are easily navigable and that they're maintained with a standard of care that is consistent across all 5 boroughs. And we do that through volunteer engagement and also through training New York City Park staff as well as the staff of our partner conservancies.
Hello, my name is Josh Otero. I'm Trails Community Engagement Coordinator with the Natural Areas Conservancy. As part of the Strategic Trails Plan, we're really looking to New Yorkers to be able to help us to take care of nature trails and ultimately natural areas throughout New York City. One of the ways that we're doing this is through the Trail Maintainer Program, which we're working closely with New York City Park Stewardship to be able to implement, but really just to engage with our fellow New Yorkers on. One of the ways that we're doing that is through training, as Julia had mentioned, of advanced volunteers and just ongoing support. We want to make sure that our volunteers feel empowered to be able to take care of trails that some of them have been on for most of their lives. And a little bit later, you'll be able to meet a few of our trail maintainers that are maintaining trails right here in Alley Pond Park. In Alley Pond Park, we currently have 12 trail maintainers who have adopted 5.5 miles of trail, and that's only a little bit, a small snapshot of what's happening citywide. Along with our efforts with the advanced volunteers and the trail maintainer program, we're looking to engage communities on different types of programming and activities that are happening on nature trails throughout New York City, which dovetail with our formalization efforts as we continue to look for ways that we can engage and bring people out into these beautiful spaces.
Hi, my name's Isaac Kirk-Davidoff. I'm the Trails Associate with the Natural Areas Conservancy. I've been with the Natural Areas Conservancy since October 2019. It's an absolute honor to work to maintain the trails that like 8 million people can walk on. When I first started doing trail work, I always worked in the backcountry and never thought I would work in such an urban area like New York City. But one of the things I'm really proud about is being able to bring the techniques I learned in the backcountry in the wilderness in Appalachia and New Hampshire to bring them to New York City. Putting in rocks into trails, putting in all these things that we would do in the middle of the mountains, but doing it, just 10 minutes away from Grand Central Parkway. I love this park, and I'm really excited to show off the trails here, and I'm really excited about this strategic trails plan because I think it will, really kind of bring these trails and the wildness and the wild natural areas in New York City to more people's attention when they think of New York City parks. So right here, this is an example of recent trail work we just did. Me and Gabe, who's not here right now, and Josh helped out with this. These are called check steps, but basically it's a staircase because what we had before was this, which is a really heavily eroded section of trail. And when people walk down on a hill like this, a very steep slope, they erode it even more. So if we didn't do anything, this would just get worse and worse until it was like a cliff. And part of what we do is sustainable trail building, which is creating services that are both like, accessible, easy to walk on, but will also last for like 50 years. And these rocks, they're not moving anywhere. They're gonna last for like 50, if I did it right, even 100 years.
It's it. The rock check steps that Isaac just explained to y'all is one aspect of a check step that we install. We also install check steps using lumber, but as part of our use of more locally sourced materials, this is the culmination of that, trying to look at what is offered on site and utilize that to the best of our capabilities, working with the terrain that's here readily available.
We're on the terminal moraine of the ice sheet. This is where the glaciers stopped during the Ice Age, and they just left behind a ton of rocks. So there's always a bunch of really big rocks, and part of the East Coast style of trail building is using these really big rocks to your advantage by putting in really big durable steps. So we have the glaciers to thank for all these rocks, and then we just find them around here and move them and roll them, and it takes a while, and then we roll them into place and make sure they get set really well, and then they'll stay in place for a long time.
Hi, I'm Alexander Lashonsi. I'm a trail maintainer for the Yellow Trail at Alley Pond Park. I got interested in trail maintenance through actually the New York City Park Super Steward program, and I started training last year as a Super Steward navigator, and through that program I got interested in trail maintenance. Generally what I do is I work on keeping trail corridors clean in the park and accessible for people to enjoy, and I also work on preserving the native species of the area through removing various invasive species which threaten them, and I really enjoy the work, and I find it a great experience just to not only to help the park maintain the natural areas, but also to enjoy them myself. So I really look forward to continuing this work in the future, and
Hi, I'm Serena Lashonsi. I'm Alex's mom. I think you might have just heard from him. The way I got interested in this work of being a trail maintainer and a Super Steward navigator is actually because when Alex got interested, he was 17, and the parks doesn't allow kids under 18 to do it independently. So I kind of got not exactly dragged into it in the beginning, but I had to accompany him. And then I just fell in love with it myself. And it's something that we both have been doing together. We both are in charge of the Yellow Trail. We were trained by Josh a few months ago. And I have to say it's been one of the most fulfilling things that I have ever done. And I absolutely love it on multiple levels. It's very healing and peaceful to be in nature. I also, as a bonus, get to bond with my son, who otherwise the only things we had in common to do outside were to go to baseball games, and those are just seasonal. So, and also, in addition, it kind of ties in with my work as an architect, and I've got my firm involved in doing park stewardship work as well. So it's been absolutely a win-win for me, and I hope I'll be able to continue this for a long time.
So this is another trail structure called a function. It's basically like a boardwalk that you use to kind of go over muddy areas, any wet areas. This area, anytime it rains, there's a seasonal stream that just flows right through it. So when that happens, people can walk over it and they don't get their boots wet, and they don't erode the trail further by walking in mud. We built these puncheons as part of our trails improvement techniques training, which we give to like parks workers, conservancy workers, various like park staff across the city. We do it once a year and teach them techniques so that they can build structures like this across the city.
As Julia mentioned earlier, a big part of our formalization efforts are through trailblazing, which the trailblazes are the markers that you see here. They have a New York City Parks logo on them. They let you know what park you're in. And these blazes you can find throughout the nature trails in New York City. The decision process for putting these blazes in is actually pretty well thought out, and it takes some time. This process occurs coordination through the city with the Citywide Trails team, New York City Parks, and that's the various divisions within New York City Parks, including branch managers and forestry, horticulture, and natural resources, trying to make sure that we are, when we first come into a park, the trail network is just a lot of different trails that people have used over time. So what we look to do with formalization is consolidate the network to improve accessibility and navigability, as well as help improve the overall condition of the natural area to prevent fragmentation of the forest. And after the network has been formalized and that process has been undergone, we end up with blazes. So once we have these trails that have been blazed, or are our official trails, there are also other types of trails, which Isaac will let you all know a little bit more about.
So throughout New York City parks and parks in general, there are desire lines, which are these informal trails. And we try and close them basically to keep the natural area wild and to help habitat restoration. A fragmented habitat brings in a lot of invasive species. It kind of disturbs the landscape. So keeping these areas big and wild is really important, which is why whenever we close desire lines, we will try and go back and cut invasives, try and help the seed bank grow by decompacting the soil, and we also plant native species and kind of restore these areas that were once really fragmented into parts of this forest. And so that in 5 years they kind of blend in with the forest, and we make the forest bigger and bigger and keep the natural areas wild. So really, if you want to keep these areas wild, we really encourage people to stay on the trail and follow the blazes. That's the best way to keep this natural area wild for generations to come.